All right.
How cool is that?
Go ahead, Aton.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the shop. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Dynasty Diagnostic podcast. My name is Aton Mosia. I'm flanked, as always, by Sam Stompy Lane, and we are lucky enough to have Mr. Justin Toth from. Where are you from, Justin? I want you to.
Did you really forgot where he's from? You forgot where he's from.
I want you to come be part of this
fantasy football podcast. I do it with my dad, who's a joke in himself. He's on the.
You know what? You know what? The reason that I messed that up is because your username was Justin FSFB until just now, and now it's Justin FFB. So you can't even blame me.
It's because of the tongue twister in the beginning of my podcast. I gotta say my dad's Twitter because he doesn't know his own @, and I can't say both FSFF. Like it's saying that like 2 times fast is never fun, and I always struggle with it. So I changed it for the ease of that, and you don't know. That's just what I'm doing. that's why I did it.
So 2 things, Aton. We have been gone for a while. Even with these quarantine and isolation, our lives just kind of kicked our ass last 2 weeks. We had to postpone last week's, and then we actually were going to record this week, 3 of these days, and finally we were able to record on Saturday. But life is kind of still hectic. So how are things going on your end, man?
Man, I right before the pandemic, got into a new industry, got into a new job probably a month or 2 before everything hit. So, here I am walking into it thinking, okay, everything's going to be hunky-dory. I'm going to learn this and, I'm going to be on like a new path immediately. And then, a cluster F just hits everything. And we're back to the point where at this point, I'm kind of needing to learn everything on the run. I'm kind of needing to not necessarily get any of that training I was promised, as it is the case with any job that you would get. But yeah, it has been an absolute just complete 180 from what I expected would happen, and it is it's kind of gone into every corner of my life at this point.
That's the truth, man. Justin, we'll let you talk here in a second.
You're good.
Wanted to introduce this talk by yelling at you. We were before the podcast. We got on the subject of Star Wars because Justin's last name is Justin, obviously Toth. Sounds like Hoth, and for most normal people, they would know what Hoth is. It's the ice planet in Star Wars where Luke has to live inside of a dead tauntaun to keep himself warm.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
Everybody should know that. But it led into more, he said, I'm a Marvel guy. I was like, so am I. And then I said, I'm also a Lord of the Rings guy. And he decided to tell me he has never seen Lord of the Rings. What the hell is going on here, man? I watch those like 5 times a year, and it's all the extended versions all in one day. So it's like 12 hours of movie in a day.
Yeah, I'm not even sure like what to do with you at this point. Like that movie series was part of like the formation of my childhood. That was how we lived early on, and you had not even seen it?
You can partially blame my dad, technically, because he never thought to show me them. And I wasn't, like, as a kid, I wasn't going to go see him myself. I don't know how to really go about that. I don't know. But now, I probably should have seen him, but I didn't. I'm not, like, I guess I'm missing something. So
yes, you are missing.
I'll watch him. I'll watch him then. I'm okay with watching.
I think all 3 of them won Oscars. All 3 of them. The Hobbit. Yeah, you can skip The Hobbit. I don't really care about.
Yeah, don't watch The Hobbit.
Lord of the Rings is where it's at.
All right, I'll have to watch those.
You better.
I will.
Let's be real. You got some time on your hands.
Kinda. I'm applying to grad school, Stompy.
Well, that's fine. That's why. Well, for me, because I know the movies, I use them as like background noise for when I have to like write or something.
I'm gonna have to pay attention though. Taking notes during it.
It's fine.
Quiz me next time I come on.
It better be extended. I'm telling you, extended version, not this 3-hour bullshit.
Not this
4 hours. 4 hours.
All right, extended version and all. Have you ever seen the Hateful Eight extended version? That's on half speed. No,
on half speed.
That's a trip right there.
Anyway, we're glad to be back talking fantasy football. So, yeah, let's actually talk fantasy football for the people that are actually here.
Let's do it.
All three of you, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really, really do appreciate the three of you listeners out there. But like Stompy said, we are going to get to the football side of things. The football world is drastically different than it was just a few days ago. I mean, I'm not sure how soon after some of the big news you're hearing this podcast, but Cam Newton and Tom Brady, they're kind of connected now, because after Tom Brady, it's now Cam Newton who is the presumed starter in New England. All those people that were on Jarrett Stidham, all those people who drafted Jarrett Stidham, all those people who thought that he was potentially gonna be a really, really cheap QB asset to acquire this year, I'm sorry, it's over now. But Cam Newton is now a New England Patriot, and there are some interesting things to talk about when it comes to figuring out what Cam Newton's impact is going to be on this team and what this team's impact is going to be on Cam Newton. So let's kind of just start from just a solid understanding of what we've seen from Cam Newton recently and what we think he still might be. Now, whether or not he's still healthy, I think health isn't even really put into the question at this point. I think if the Patriots signed him, if Bill Belichick went through with that transaction, we've heard everything from Adam Schefter saying that when the physical is actually done, that it's going to go through no problems. There's going to be no hitches on this one. So I think we can assume he's healthy, and a healthy Cam Newton is a dangerous Cam Newton. In fact, in the last few seasons, we've seen some positive signs from Cam Newton, even though maybe it's a little bit in limited circumstances. In 2018, Cam Newton actually had, for the first time in his career, a completion percentage over expectation of 2.5%. His ADOT, which was 10, 10.3, 8.5, in the years prior to that, actually dropped to 7.2. He was looking to be a little bit more short yardage oriented and looking for his receivers to do some of that work. And it worked well for him. His completion percentage was 68.4%, which again was the highest mark of his career by some distance. Of course, then 2019 happened, injuries happened, and we saw a little bit of the other side of what Cam Newton is. But we saw Cam Newton improving as a quarterback, not even as an athlete, as a quarterback, just as recently as 2018. Assuming health, can this continue? We'll start with you, Justin, then we'll go over to Stompy.
He looks motivated. You see, he's been, hungry Cam Newton's a scary thing. Think about a former first overall pick and then gets cut by a team and now gets a contract. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the Cam Newton thing. In Dynasty, it's not secured long term. I understand that he didn't really have a lot of money. I believe it's a $1.05 million minimum base. So just $550K guaranteed at signing. So it remains to be seen long term. Are you, Stompy, I'm curious to your thoughts on Cam Newton, really. That's what I want to know. Are you buying into him? In redraft, I don't mind him. So I'm gonna talk about my boy N'Keal Harry soon, but I'm all for this Cam Newton to New England thing.
I don't know if I necessarily agree that we saw him improving as a quarterback. We saw him throwing shorter passes.
But yeah, he's got Greg Olsen to throw to, and McCaffrey in 2018, who he made relevant, didn't really have any wide receivers, and you can argue it's not.
No, I understand that, but I mean, I guess the point is that his ADOT drops so much, and those shorter passes are going to be easier to complete. I don't necessarily know if I agree with him improving as a quarterback. Not that he was a bad quarterback by any stretch,
but for ADOT, I don't know. But improving fantasy points per game, it's possible in New England with Belichick.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's my issue: is his injury that took him out last year was an foot injury. Yeah. I've had foot surgery. I'm not an elite athlete. I know. I'm not comparing us, but I just know how long it takes to get back to normal on a foot. Not to mention that he's been hit a lot because he's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not a Kyler Murray where he's going to be avoid getting hit or run out of bounds, he is Josh Allen. He is Carson Wentz. Cam Newton.
I hate that we're saying Cam Newton is Josh Allen now. Like I can't.
Well, I mean they're very easily compared because they're both big.
I understand the comparison.
And they don't know how to. They aren't that good of passers. I mean, obviously Cam Newton's a better passer than Josh Allen, but he's not the best passer. So I guess my concern is he going to first off be able to run just physically because of the foot injury, because of just being older and getting hit a lot in his career. Also, I don't know what a Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick offense looks like with a running quarterback because we haven't seen it ever.
McDaniels in Denver with Tebow. He made that work for a little bit.
No, that wasn't.
I thought it was McDaniels. I'm pretty sure it was McDaniels. Didn't he adjust quickly?
That was John Fox.
I'm missing. I don't know.
McDaniels had Orton.
McDaniels drafted him.
McDaniels had Orton and then was.
You'd know more than I would.
Fired like really early into the 2011 season, 2010 season, something like that.
I just feel like McDaniels and Belichick will be able to play around their own personnel,
and that might be my biggest. But we just haven't seen it. We've only seen them with those two with Tom Brady, and Matt Castle. I guess Brissett was a little bit there, but I don't think we saw enough of him to draw any conclusions about how they'll react with a guy who has had a lot of designed runs and can run and is a weapon. And that's the reason that he is so valuable as a quarterback is the ability to run the ball and get in the end zone with the run. So I think it's Cam Newton, if he's able to run, if his legs are good, if his lower body's good, then he's always going to be a valuable fantasy asset. But my question is he going to be able to run like he could? And are they going to let him run? And if they don't, I don't think he has the passing acumen to be the top or the top talent that we've seen before the MVP seasons.
Well, I think one thing to think about with Cam Newton is the fact that, yes, of course, primarily he is the running threat that you would expect. That's what makes you afraid when it comes to facing Cam Newton. That said, I do think I have something to say about you not necessarily saying that the previous year in which his completion percentage jumped almost 10% up to the highest of his career was not showing that he was a better quarterback. Yes, he was taking shorter passes. He was throwing shorter passes, but that's because he understood that he had the talent around him that kind of molded themselves to that. He had guys that were big yak producers. He had CMC. He had DJ Moore for a little bit of the time before he got injured in the following season. So I think he's learning how to best use the talent he has around him rather than just kind of doing what he was doing before, throwing it high up, hoping Devin Funchess comes down with it, and ending up with one 1,000-yard receiver for 4 or 5 years of work to show for it. I just don't think that that's what we wanted ultimately from Cam Newton. The interesting thing between the Patriots and the Panthers is that if you actually look at the personnel that Cam Newton's going to be throwing to, it's actually pretty similar to what he's had most recently in Carolina. He has slot guys. N'Keal Harry, say what you want about N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry's best position is a big slot. That's what he is. Julian Edelman is the slot receiver probably of this decade. Outside of that, you also have James White, who, again, isn't CMC, but can do some CMC-like things. So if you're looking for guys that are going to be able to be yak monsters, and again, for a team that's really not used to throwing the ball downfield all that much, I think we would expect to see a Cam Newton that has a higher completion percentage, that has a lower interception rate, that's throwing shorter passes, and he kind of molds into what he was when he was at his best just about a season and a half ago. So if you're looking at the team and saying, okay, well, there might be something here, I think you can make that argument. But of course, with Cam, it all surrounds health. I just think the big debate around the Patriots this offseason was whether or not Bill Belichick was actually going to be that person to say, okay, screw it. Let me rebuild. Let me waste a year of my coaching and let me actually get this team back to contention. I think that's thrown out the window now. The Patriots are doing what we expect the Patriots to do, and that is perennially contending. And I think they're going to do the same thing with Cam Newton. I would not be surprised to see this Patriots team win 9 or 10 games with Cam Newton at quarterback, with that defense as it is, and everybody kind of be flabbergasted at the end of the season because we didn't see this coming. I just think everything is kind of set up as you would. I mean, you really couldn't write it any better for the person that you're actually inserting into the situation. I would also say that, Bill Belichick is what every dynasty owner should aspire to be. He is the guy, and this is something that Stompy and I constantly preach on this podcast. He's the guy that is not looking at an individual. He does not need player X, player Y, or player Z on his team. He needs skill set X, skill set Y, skill set Z on his team, and so on and so forth. And if that means waiting it out until he doesn't have to bid against himself, until there's no competition for the guy he was probably going to end up signing anyway, or being okay with Cam or Andy Dalton or whoever it is happen to make it to the end of the offseason, Bill Belichick has showed you the value of patience in the real NFL. I would hope that showing would also translate to how people deal with dynasty leagues. Don't go after certain individual players. Go after a team need, attack it, and then move on from that. So before we move on from Cam Newton, is there any final word before we go to this next topic that I'm going to make up right now in the next 30 seconds?
Yes, N'Keal Harry, top 24 wide receiver.
Wrong.
Not this year. I'm saying next year is going to be drafted in startups next year, top 24.
You're going to have to paint this picture for me, Justin.
Oh, so you look at what Cam's done with big body wide receivers. Cam doesn't give a crap about separation, and Blake Hampton's even shown target separation as zero correlation with fantasy points per game. He made Funchess, who I think's trash, relevant, and he also made Benjamin relevant for 2 seasons, which what's he doing now? N'Keal Harry, one of the best prospects we've had in a while, first-round draft capital, true freshman year production, early to declare, 90th percentile speed score, college dominator, breakout age are both there, above 90th percentile. I'm all in on N'Keal Harry. Rookies don't typically produce. He had started out in the PUP last year, and he came back, harder to build rapport with Tom Brady. Now you give him a quarterback that doesn't care if you're separated. He'll throw you those 50-50 balls, those contested catch balls that N'Keal Harry accelerates at. I'm all for N'Keal Harry, and now he's going to have volume. There's no real target competition of consequence there. Like, Edelman can get his, sure, but it's not Tom Brady. He's not going to pepper Edelman with targets anymore. So N'Keal Harry's going to have all the volume, and I don't understand why people are so off on him. Like, his price depressed so much from last year being a top 4 pick in rookie drafts, top 5 pick in rookie drafts, every draft mainly. And then now he's going outside the top 30 wide receivers in a startup. It's insane. Buy the dip. I'm all on the N'Keal Harry train. So
let me shoot this over to you, Sam. Is Tom Brady or Cam Newton a better quarterback for N'Keal Harry?
Well, I think it's always going to be the guy that is a more accurate passer. I mean, especially for N'Keal Harry, who separation is wanting.
You don't need separation, though.
I understand that, but
you can also improve on
if we're actually talking about accurate passes that are necessary. I mean, with those big guys that don't create separation, you need a guy who's going to be able to get it just above the cornerback's head or hands, and to give the ability to these big receivers to get it or to box a player out. So they'll have to throw it to, like, just say the inside of the defensive back. So, yeah. I mean, I understand that Cam is able to, or was able to make, I don't know if we can say he made them look good. I think they were trees that basically you could throw it in the vicinity and that all they have to do is reach out.
Well, the N'Keal Harry's 6'3".
No, I understand that. again, this isn't an argument that Cam can't throw it to N'Keal Harry. This is an argument that Tom Brady would be better for N'Keal Harry. I'm not saying that Cam won't make N'Keal or N'Keal Harry make Cam look good, whatever you want to say. I know we try and harp not to take off season videos too seriously, but there was a video with N'Keal Harry catching passes from Cam, and his routes his cuts were just so goddamn slow, and he's just not like he's a monster with the ball in his hands because
didn't we say this about DK last year though?
What do you mean?
He's not a separator. Like he's just not great. He's never been great.
Yeah, but here's the thing: DK has the speed to even just be downfield, and I'll admit DK looked good last year. I mean, and he looked good running routes. But N'Keal, I mean, if you watch his video, it's just it's not great. And I'm not saying that. Yeah, that's that video.
Yeah, I had the video.
It's a bad video. But I'm just saying, like. I'm not saying N'Keal can't be good. I'm just saying that I don't expect it with him and Cam, at least this year. Maybe next year he's a top 24 wide receiver, but this year I just don't.
This year, I think for redraft, like this year only, I'm saying top 36. Which is he's going at a wide receiver 60 in redraft right now. So
okay,
I would. You're in a dynasty league. You just spent the 101 on him, so you hope he's top 36.
Yeah, you hope he's You can't. Yeah, it's hard. I've been buying him wherever I can though. That's just me.
I don't like his route running, and if they prove me wrong, they prove me wrong. I mean that's fine, but I would rather not take that chance with N'Keal Harry and wait until he doesn't do well again this year and then buy him, which I mean is very feasible, right?
No, he's doing well this year.
He has Edelman and James White. Like okay. I don't those guys are going to get 100 targets each. Or
I don't expect N'Keal rise from N'Keal Harry this year. I really don't. I think that N'Keal Harry is a good player. But kind of like Sam alluded to, I mean, Julian Edelman's still there. He's going to be the target leader on the team. James White's probably going to be the second target leader.
Don't forget Sanu.
On the team. Mo Sanu is still there. He's healthy. They just drafted two tight ends, I believe, two rookie tight ends.
No, all right.
But also Cam Newton has used tight ends a lot, and so have the Patriots.
Greg Olsen. Using Greg Olsen a lot, not Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene.
Well, that's fine, but
great.
I'm saying the offense that they have installed is a tight end heavy offense
with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez.
Yes, they
played their personnel though. They played their personnel. I'm saying so. It wouldn't shock me if they go like they draft. They don't never had a Cam Newton before. You know, Tom Brady's not like. I'm interested to see what kind of plays they're going to draw up. That's what I want to see. So, yeah.
I just want to see Cam mobile again, honestly, at this point. I just want to see that happen all over again. But let's go from Cam Newton. We started talking about a CFC and some other tight ends on that team. So let's shift the narrative. Let's shift the conversation to another tight end making some headlines. David Njoku, after Austin Hooper is given the biggest tight end contract in history, after the Browns just continue to add to their pass-catching weapons, after it becomes very, very clear to literally the last person in the room to know that David Njoku would likely not be not be a huge part of the Browns team this season, it seems like he and his agent have asked for a trade. I have to imagine OJ Howard is having these same conversations right now behind closed doors. I mean, David Njoku, OJ Howard, are these the types of guys that you think you should be targeting in dynasty leagues, or just as a whole, as dynasty leaguers, are we so enamored by these athletic profiles that we keep giving people chance after chance after chance to kind of prove us right and find ourselves keep kind of dropping into these just fiery pits of wrongness and of pain, drafting these guys that aren't going to help you year after year after year?
I have to imagine they're, especially in like one tight end, their value is pretty low at this point. I mean, I would say you might be able to get them for a low second, high third, just because neither has. OJ Howard had, I think both of them had good production in their second seasons. but not like elite production. And after last year, when they both didn't do well, I mean, Njoku was injured, but now their respective teams have signed the obvious starter in Hooper and Gronkowski. But I mean, they're both fantastic tight ends. We were all excited about this class, was it 17 or 18? 17 class. The 2017 class of tight ends was one of the best we've seen. I mean, comparably to 2019 class. So I mean, the thing is, Njoku hasn't played all that long. He was still learning the game. He's still very young. So, I mean, OJ Howard was probably the most polished tight end coming out of college in that class. They
to his detriment.
Yeah, I mean, that might be, but I would say, and we say it all the time, second contract tight ends are usually the ones that break out, or you see a lot of breakouts with the second contract tight ends. I think it's the same situation where if these guys get traded to a team that needs a tight end, say Jacksonville, I don't know if that's these are just guessing at this point, but Jacksonville, well, not Detroit. I mean, I think of other.
The Jets just need
the Jets, yeah. Imagine if somehow the Patriots get one of them for pretty cheap.
Texans, yeah.
So
Houston or Arizona.
Yeah, Houston's another one where I mean they have good tight ends, but not that type of athletic elite tight end.
I mean, you can call it Bill O'Brien and probably get a first and a second for David Njoku. So.
Yeah, but yeah, so. I mean, if they land in the right spot, I think they have the athleticism to be successful. We saw David Njoku was the tight end 9 in 2018. OJ Howard had some monster games that year. I don't know exactly what he did that year in 2018, but I have to believe that they are good enough to make an impact on a team that has an opening. I just don't know why Cleveland and Tampa Bay aren't giving these guys a shot, really.
How you, Justin?
It doesn't make. I agree with Stompy on that. Stompy and I rarely agree, but we agree on these tight ends not getting a shot when they should. Like Dave Njoku, uber athletic, 97 percentile burst score, 94 percentile catch radius. He wants to. I want Arizona or Houston, like I said. So I think Houston would be a good fit. Given Deshaun Watson, a athletic tight end would be interesting to see, especially with no more DeAndre Hopkins. But anywhere he goes. Hopefully that the team that they're trading for him, they're going to give him an opportunity. And with an opportunity, we saw like tight end 9 in 2018, and that wasn't even a lot of opportunities. So I think David Njoku, tight end takes a while to learn, second contract and all that stuff. It's just I would buy into both of them right now in Dynasty for sure. OJ Howard and Njoku.
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's a cost issue, right? I mean, if the cost is low enough, which it will be for these guys, because right now is the time of uncertainty, which is the time that I often urge players to go out and see if you can be aggressive. There's a lot of Tyreek Hill owners this past year that did that just a year ago because they expected Tyreek to not be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. They made huge profits in that, regardless of what you feel about the morality of the Tyreek Hill issue. The point is, there cycles times in playing Dynasty League football that you find assets that are extremely depressed for one reason or another. And if you want to get ahead, if you want to get up from 6th place to 3rd place and actually be a challenger, you're going to have to make some big wins. Making trades is not always a big win because oftentimes you're giving up so much equity to go ahead and get that person you want. But if you can find these guys at extremely depressed values and make time of the essence and use time as something that you can also use to add value to your team, you can sometimes get burned. And I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but you can also find yourself very heavily in the black just a few short months later when these situations start to clear up. So if you're looking for an athletic young tight end that maybe doesn't necessarily have a name behind them yet, I think these guys are the perfect assets to buy. Number one, because their contracts are expiring next year. And number two, because we've already seen, at least to some extent, what these guys can do on a football field. So let's now switch from tight ends to talking about some big trios that we're going to have to deal with this year when it comes to wide receivers. Some people are starting to side-eye Courtland Sutton just a little bit because, number one, they don't believe in Drew Lock. Number two, Jerry Jeudy is there, like we've heard, to ruin the day. And KJ Hamler also adds to that. So some people think that Courtland Sutton is not just going to have the target volume that he's had in the past. People are extending this line of thinking over to Amari Cooper out in Dallas, saying that the presence of CeeDee Lamb, of Blake Jarwin, of Michael Gallup are definitely going to hold this guy down this year. I don't subscribe to either theories. I think we're just going to see more effective offenses. Ultimately, that's just going to be a boon to everyone involved. But I'd be interested to hearing your positions on what we should do with the quote-unquote crowded wide receiver room in 2020.
Go for it.
Buy. I'm buying Courtland Sutton. Like, that dude was going top 13 before the draft. They drafted Jerry Jeudy. Everyone's scared now. I don't understand. If Chris Godwin and Mike Evans didn't scare me off Chris Godwin last year. Or like any year when I was buying into this guy. You got to believe in the player's talent. If you don't believe in the player's talent, then why like I'm buying into Courtland Sutton's talent. Elite pro, like 6'3" alpha wide receiver. Granted, he didn't do great with Drew Lock, but still had, I believe, a 27% target share with Drew Lock in the game. You guys are Broncos fans, so you'd be able to tell me better than I could. But I'm buying into Courtland Sutton. I don't know about you guys in the trio. And then same thing with Gallup right now. Gallup's is so depressed, and you can get him for a second-round pick, I've seen. So I'm buying into Gallup and Sutton.
I mean, I don't know how you don't buy into Sutton.
People are just.
He had Emmanuel Sanders for most of the season. Last season was still very productive with Emmanuel Sanders. I understand that he was then traded and it was only him, but not to mention that Locke the last 5 weeks, I think, averaged 36 some odd attempts. I mean, I have to look that up, but they didn't throw a lot with Drew Lock last year. Locke, he looked great in the times that he did throw. He was making every throw he could. And we saw some spectacular catches from Courtland Sutton with Drew Lock throwing him the ball. There was that, I believe that one-handed catch in the back of the end zone from Drew Lock. So I don't know why you would sell a guy who just took that massive of a leap in his second season and then is the bona fide wide receiver one in this offense. So I mean, if somebody's selling Courtland Sutton because of the Jerry Jeudy and Drew, by the way, Drew Lock is a far better quarterback than Sutton has had in either season. Most of the season last year.
His entire football playing career.
Yeah, that's probably true.
To SMU.
Lock's better than Brandon Allen.
Brandon Allen, Joe Flacco, and his floppy jalopy arm now, and Case Keenum was terrible in Denver. Yeah. But yeah, Drew Lock can make throws that none of those guys could. He's going to take more risks than any of those guys would have and have. Meaning that he's going to probably throw a lot more 50-50 balls to Sutton, which we know Sutton is fantastic with because he's an elite athlete and he's just a freak of nature that can go get those, but he's fantastic in 50-50 balls.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know why you would worry about Sutton because he doesn't necessarily need a ton of targets. He's still probably going to get like 120 plus, but he's more of a downfield guy for Drew Lock. And with that arm and a Pat Shurmur offense, I expect him to throw five. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see 550 passing attempts next year, which I mean, is not 600 by any means with Dak and who I think Dak is going to surpass, and probably Stafford, probably a couple of those other team or a couple of the other teams, but 550 with Drew Lock and how he looked last year, and taking a step forward in a better offensive scheme. I mean, Sutton potentially is a top 12 wide receiver this season.
Ooh.
I And
I
then
don't think that's a hot take at all.
I think
Really?
Amari,
yeah.
I'll say this with Amari, it's more feasible to me because we saw Michael Gallup put up decent numbers last year. He was actually, I believe, more efficient than Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb, probably the most I can't even say that. Jerry Jeudy's route running is fantastic. I think where Lamb and Jeudy differs, Lamb's the more athletic outside receiver, and Jerry Jeudy's the better runner, and he's quick on the inside, or a route runner and quick on the inside. So they're different. But also Mike McCarthy down there, I think they'll throw. I mean, Dak threw the ball 595 times or 96 times last year. I think he surpasses 600 with Mike McCarthy. So it to me, it's more feasible because you do have, I think of the two skill positions, I would take Dallas because I think they just are better overall. You have those three wide receivers, which I think currently are better because there's two rookies in Denver. Ezekiel Elliott's part of the passing game. Tony Pollard looked fantastic last year. Not that they're that much better than Lindsey and Gordon, but I think it'll be a lot more distributed in Dallas than in Denver. I'll say that.
See that. You also could see Sutton being like the one other than Noah Fant returning guy for lock, so you could also be used as a safe haven in a sense, which I'm all for as well.
So that was a lot of words. I'm buying into Sutton, and the Cooper hype is, or the Cooper. I'm not really buying Cooper, but I'm not.
Cooper.
I mean, Cooper's going to be top.
He played on 1 foot last year.
Yeah, we'll say top 16 this year, which is
top
fine.
15, top 12.
I'd say top. I think Amari Cooper.
I mean,
he played on 1 foot last year.
I know, I get it. I'm just saying that I think with all of the skill positions around him, that I don't know if either will happen, but it's more plausible to me with Cooper. Does that make sense? So I don't think either are being overdrafted, but if somebody's going to fail their ADP, I think it's Cooper.
All right, so far on the show, Stompy hates both Mike Evans and Amari Cooper. So if you're drafting against Stompy out there, people.
What do you mean I hate Mike Evans? I hate N'Keal Harry.
Oh, okay. Listen.
I don't hate Mike Evans. Get out of here.
Mike Evans. I'm not a Mike Evans guy. I respect Mike Evans, but I'm Team Godwin all the way.
I just don't think they're going to throw the ball as deep that often with Tom Brady.
No, Brady's arm's fine. He can still throw it deep.
No, he's fine, but I'm just saying I don't think it's going to. I mean, it's Jameis Winston. It's Chucker Jameis Winston who says YOLO every other throw, or it's Tom Brady who makes good decisions and will make the short throw. And that's why I think Evans is going to. I mean, I don't think he's going to have a bad season. I just don't think he's going to be top 10 again, or not again, but this year. We lost him.
We lost him. Chris Godwin is going to be the same thing as Randy Moss was to Tom Brady, but in the slot. A slot version of Randy Moss. That's what I'm saying. Not this year. Gronkowski's going to take some away.
I mean, yeah, because he's a lot bigger. He's a lot bigger than the
Edelman. He's never had an athletic slot receiver like this.
No, I mean, he's had Welker. He's had Edelman. Randy Moss was the most athletic guy he had, but
Randy Moss is Randy Moss.
Godwin and Randy Moss aren't the same type of receiver.
I'm just going to say it as a joke, though. It's a Randy Moss of a slot.
I didn't even hear wherever that rant went, but I'm glad I at least was here for it. My mic is stupid, so yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on. All right, so we've talked about some tight ends, talked about some wide receivers, talked about my man Cam Newton.
Can we talk about Patrick Mahomes and his gigantic, massive contract?
Yeah, we can talk about Patrick Mahomes and his gigantic, massive $500 million contract. I think he's extremely underpaid. If I'm Patrick Mahomes, if I'm Patrick Mahomes, what makes the most sense? I mean, yes, you can get injured, and I understand why you sign a contract in a sport where where things can change, as quickly as they can change. I understand that, but what we've seen from the last few years is every time a new quarterback signs a contract, that resets the market. Kirk Cousins, the only reason Kirk Cousins is within the top 5, top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now is timing, right, is timing. He was franchised twice, and he was at his prime on the market in a way that we just don't see often from NFL quarterbacks. The last big quarterback we saw on the market that actually had a major impact for his team was thought to be past his prime in Peyton Manning, right? So if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I sign a 3-year deal. I hit the market again in my prime, sign another mega contract, and probably hit the market again one more time before we call it quits. This 10-year contract seems to lock into the Kansas City Chiefs forever. Now, again, I get it. It's $500 million. Like, what am I talking about? Like, this is not a lot of money. I'm just saying, it feels like if you slow play this a little bit, you probably get more from it on the back end.
Well, I'll say this. He's basically guaranteed $125 million in the first 2 seasons. So I can't agree with that because that's I mean, when we say reset, we're talking about like level of, okay, Dak could get $30 million or should get $30 million a season.
Dak is going for 40 now. Dak was just waiting for Mahomes.
But I don't think that's necessarily true here because this was such a massive contract and the front end is so guaranteed, which absolutely makes sense for the Chiefs because they have a rookie running back who keeps their window open for probably 3 or 4 seasons here. And they can get out.
Wait. A rookie running back keeps the Chiefs window? What? Does it matter who plays running back for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think it does. I mean, would you really think CEH is not better than Damian Williams and gives them a continued chance, a young continued chance to keep going?
I think Jordan Howard with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs
I think that's bullshit. Quit being hyperbolic.
I'm serious. I don't think it matters.
That is ridiculous. You know he's not going to be the pass catcher that the Chiefs need.
I don't think it matters.
In the backfield with Patrick Mahomes.
Matt Breida makes sense.
You get
Jordan Howard doesn't.
Jordan Howard would still be good in that.
He'd still be a top 8 running back.
Yeah, I don't think that.
You can make Spencer Ware. No, Charkandrick West.
Charkandrick West was a very good fantasy asset.
He was until he got injured. He was not very good. He was fine.
And Jordan Howard's better than Charkandrick West. I hate Jordan Howard, so you're not going to get anything. I do not like Jordan.
I said he was fine. But they also can get out in 2024. So it's not as big as we think because they can get out from under it and really in 2023 and get a $38 million cap savings. But I don't think you're doing that because you're locking in a quarterback through his entire prime and into his waning years. I mean, unless they just start to take a gigantic shit in the middle of this contract, I don't see how they need to worry about quarterback for 10 more years.
Yeah, from a team perspective, this is extremely advantageous for the Kansas City Chiefs because not only are they signing Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes is even on the market, because I believe he still had a year plus a 5th-year option, I think, left to run on his deal. So they're doing this early. And I think the Chiefs kind of lucked out with what happened last year. Patrick Mahomes got hurt. He learned what mortality was in the NFL, and I think that made it easier to then go ahead and sign a long-term contract that guarantees your future regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I think it's also
100.
You just won a Super Bowl. He's happy. He's a nice guy. Mahomes, nice guy who's like, I like the Chiefs, and I'm just gonna you're not gonna turn down $500 billion. That's crazy. But I understand what Eitan's saying with the whole. You should slow play it to maximize value and not get more money. But I don't know. I feel like he's not the type of guy.
I would say that contracts in the NFL are very different because of the fact that they are much more apt for injury than any other sport, right? So, I mean, when you can get over $100 million as a 25 and 26-year-old and basically guarantee that your life is good and probably up to through your grandchildren's lives are good, even if you get injured, because I believe 141 of it's guaranteed with injury. I think you take that. So I understand what Eitan's saying, but I think this it's kind of one of those, do I take a lump sum now or do I take a monthly payout? And I don't think either one's the wrong option, because he could make more money with this money that he has over that time period as well. So I understand, but I would say 120 million, 141 million guaranteed with injury is just too enticing.
Yeah.
If you looked at the Kansas City Chiefs cap situation, like I was often before what has actually transpired this offseason, what was readily apparent to you was that Sammy Watkins' contract was untenable, was not something that the Chiefs could continue to persist with, along with having Tyreek Hill on that team. My expectation would, and I think the expectation of most people that were looking at the situation, was that Sammy Watkins would no longer be a Chief moving forward, that they were not going to be able to come to an agreement that had Sammy Watkins shave as much of his salary as he did. Apparently, I'm wrong. Turns out winning a Super Bowl seems to be a factor that draws people to take lesser contracts to go ahead and stay with that team. And so now we have the issue of having both Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman vying for that wide receiver 2 spot on the Kansas City Chiefs going into the 2020 season.
What about Sammy playing slot?
I think Sammy could play anywhere. I think Tyreek plays a lot of slot actually in that Chiefs offense if you watch the games. So I think that maybe there might be some people there. But my question to you guys is, does everybody eat here? Does everybody eat here? Are you back in on Sammy Watkins? Are you still as gung-ho about Mecole Hardman as you might have been before the Sammy Watkins deal? How does this affect what you think about this Kansas City Chiefs offense? And are you kind of taking anything from this and maybe tempering expectations and making a parallel or drawing a parallel to what we saw from the Los Angeles Rams just a few years ago, this crazy, crazy offense that all of a sudden kind of came back to earth just a season on from their huge, huge explosion? Do we think that any of this is kind of in the future of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Sammy Watkins on a 1-year deal, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
He looked good in the Super Bowl, helped them win the Super Bowl. I believe I'm back on the Sammy Watkins train because his price is so depressed. I think if you're competing or contending in Dynasty, it's worth trying to get him on your team for third and fourth, maybe a little bit more throw-in player. You can probably get Sammy Watkins because a lot of people are out on him. And he did have a 45-plus point game week 1 last year. Granted, that was just like a flash, and you didn't see that again for the whole year. You're kind of hoping that it would happen, and he put up a lot of duds. Mecole Hardman getting a lot of hype going into his second year. However, I don't know how much he actually does with Tyreek healthy. Last year, you saw his snap share when Tyreek was gone go above 60%, and whenever Tyreek Hill came back, it never went above 50%, other than the one game against the Chargers where you saw Demarcus Robinson eat. Anyone can eat in this offense. You could put any us three in this offense. We'd at least have a tight end, a top whatever wide receiver 1, tight end 1 week. I think it's like Mahomes. It works. So Mecole Hardman's price, a lot of people want him right now, so it's hard to buy into that. I like Mecole Hardman. I just don't know if it's this year. I think it's one more year.
I like Mecole Hardman better than Sammy personally.
Well, he's going earlier too. It's all like,
but I mean, what's earlier? I mean, we're talking Mecole Hardman in 8th, 9th, 10th round, right?
Versus Sammy in the 16th.
Yeah, the real debate is even if you say both of these guys are exactly the same, Mecole Hardman is with the Kansas City Chiefs for at least 3 more seasons beyond this one, whereas Sammy Watkins, we don't necessarily know. But go ahead, Sam.
Well, I guess I'm on Mecole because he can like win you weeks.
Yes.
Whereas with Sammy, I don't know if you can trust Sammy really.
But you can't trust
sure,
Mecole.
he had 90 targets last season in 14 games, but I mean, that's the best season he's had in a while. Actually, really, I mean, he had the 8 touchdown season in 2017 with the Rams, but
he's been
I guess with Mecole, he gets a chance to return kicks. He gets a chance to be an outside receiver, and we know that the Chiefs take deep shots a lot. So I like Mecole's touchdown upside over Sammy's just game-to-game upside.
I just don't know how much McColl does with Tyreek Hill healthy.
I understand, but McColl
McColl
only had 41 targets last season, so it's not like when Tyreek went down, it was largely Demarcus Robinson.
Tyreek went down. He got 6 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, and he comes back. He get 3, 2, 0, 1, 4, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1.
I mean, I would say that he plays over Demarcus Robinson
this
right?
year, yeah.
So I would say that he probably is still around that 4 targets per game range.
Not even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire there now.
Yeah.
Now he's like 5th on the pecking order. You have Tyreek, Kelsey.
I would call him
4th,
probably 4th on the pecking order,
which is you're like, I think in Dynasty Best Ball more of a buy because then you don't have to worry about.
But yeah, when are you playing Sammy?
If you bye weeks, wide receiver, the last flex spot, it depends on the roster. It's always roster dependent and stuff like that. But I feel like if you can get him as your wide receiver 6, like I wouldn't mind Sammy as my wide receiver 6, 7.
We're talking about Sammy Watkins, so obviously we're just trying to get a piece of this Kansas City Chiefs offense any possible way we can. Ricky Seals-Jones is now on this offense behind Travis Kelce. Demetrius Harris was behind Travis Kelce a few years back, had himself a decent season, even with Travis Kelce healthy. Does RSJ come back from the dead?
No.
If
What?
Kelce gets hurt, I believe.
When was that? When was the Demetrius Harris season?
I'm not saying that was Demetrius Harris' season. He had a decent season.
Okay, whatever.
A few years ago. I think it was 2 years ago when they were both on the Chiefs. Or no, when they were both on the Chiefs.
So it was before Tyreek Hill became a thing.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, who else was catching passes there? Their wide receivers were absolute trash.
Hey, they had the GOAT. They had Wilson.
Yes,
they had the GOAT on that team.
But let's be real, their wide receivers were trash that year. So I mean, yeah, it's Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and then a mixture below that. But if I'm gonna take upside, I'm taking McCole Hardman.
That's fine. I just feel like Sammy's price is so depressed. Like everyone's out,
and there's a reason for that, Justin.
Well, everyone's out because they've been burned by him, but he's healthy. He signed a 1-year deal. He looked good in the Super Bowl. I mean, why not? It's like, why not? It's so cheap.
He looked good in like 2 games last year. It was week 1 and the last game of the season.
Hey, it's not about where you start, where you finish, and he finished the Super Bowl as a champion.
Yeah, but that didn't help anybody in fantasy football, Justin.
DFS, it could have.
It could have, sure.
I don't know. I just think it's like so cheap. It's like, why not? It's almost like if you get them, it's not gonna hurt you.
Well, that's fine, but if you had a choice between me, Cole, and Sammy,
Feels right.
and I understand it's about value, but if you had a choice between the two, it's me, Cole. No, I mean, no question, right?
It's closer than I think it appears. But in Dynasty, longer term play, yes, I understand. So yeah, I'll go with McCole with that. I'm not gonna try to just go against you for this. I'll go with McCole.
Every year with Sammy Watkins. You would think at some point we'd be like, he's not gonna burn us again.
Now it's the year. This is the year where
every goddamn year since his second season. It's like, oh, dude, Sammy's my dude. And then every year he's like, oh, I got 600 receiving yards. Sorry, guys.
And now no one's saying it's his year, which means it is.
What are you talking about? We're talking about him right now.
Because I'm talking about him. I'm talking about him because no one else is talking about him. No one else is talking about Sammy.
Because he doesn't deserve to be talked about.
It's some reverse psychology stuff going on. People
oh my God. I would like to, I don't know his fantasy points, but I think he might have had 2 double-digit fantasy days since week 1. So he had 2 double-digit fantasy days outside of week 1, and none of them included touchdowns.
I can look that up real quick.
No, I'm pretty sure as I look at it, that's correct.
All right, so while you do that, before we shift to the Dynasty Diagnostic for the week, we're just going to ask one final question. A bunch of rookie receivers this year that we expect to be big things. Last year, we were blessed with a bunch of wide receivers that were rookies that came on and had themselves great seasons. There are a few people who are in decent situations. Which one do you think is going to be the best of these 3? We have Denzel Mims, obviously, who's looking at essentially a wide receiver 1A role in New York going into the season. 1A or 1B. He's going to be pretty much right there with Brashard Perriman. Outside of him, in terms of the rookie wide receiver,
I mean, just Jamison Crowder just die or what?
Jamison Crowder is going to get 150 passes. He's going to catch 150 passes for about 625 yards, and he's just going to be irrelevant like he is pretty much every season.
Except for the 150 targets that he takes away from everybody else on that team. What are you talking about?
There's nobody else to pass to. So 150 targets here. You're telling me the other 300 are going to where? Who else is on that team?
Well,
we're not even done. Let me ask the damn question, Sam.
Yeah, I want to hear this question. Sam, I want to hear this question. I want to hear the man's question, Sam. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to answer this. And you over here saying Jamison Crowder is the best receiver in the NFL. I'm ready to answer this question.
Never said that.
Denzel Mims finds himself in a decent situation. Obviously, people are over the moon with Jalen Reagor. I don't know how to say names anymore. And then we also have Justin Jefferson that is going to be filling the shoes of a maybe down Dalvin Cook Minnesota Vikings team that might have to rely on the pass a little bit more. So all three of these rookies find themselves in decent shots of getting decent volume that first year. I would include Michael Pittman in this. I don't believe in Michael Pittman. You can try to sway me if you want me to, but let's just say these three. Who do you think is going to have the best year one return on investment?
Am I going first? Do I have the honor?
Go ahead.
It's Jalen Reagor, baby. Jalen Reagor season. Wide receiver 1, Dynasty wide receiver 2 for me for behind CeeDee Lamb. But wide receiver Jalen Reagor, number 1 option outside of Zach Ertz. I think you can argue he's going to have 100 targets this year. Carson Wentz. This dude is the Cam Akers of the wide receiver position and only seeing an accurate pass on 61% of his targets last year. Uber athletic. His combine testing, people were disappointed with the speed, but honestly, the dude weighed 194 pounds, came into the combine weighing 206, and still ran a 4.46, I believe. But people were expecting below like sub 3. And then he ran his own combine at his house and ran a 4.34, something like that, which I don't believe. But you give him the benefit of the doubt. Sub 4.4. He's a faster player. Look at his film. This dude runs away from people. Dynamic. First-round draft capital ahead of Justin Jefferson, which was very surprising for me, but it's the perfect fit for Carson Wentz. Downfield threat, can do it all, has a diverse route tree. I'm all aboard Jalen Reagor. Stompy, you don't look too happy about this Jalen Reagor.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
No, you gotta be more than fine with it. This is Jalen Reagor's season, Stompy.
I'm good. I'm not.
It's Jalen Reagor's season. Why?
Because there's a lot more targets in Philadelphia than there are in Minnesota to me.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Like,
I mean, Alshon's still there. The 2 tight ends.
Alshon, you're gonna talk about Alshon Jeffrey being
Dejon Jackson's still there.
He's not gonna play.
He's gonna get cut. Arcega Whiteside is still there.
Who?
No. Your other guy, Miles Sanders, is still there.
He's the best running back.
Boston
in the NFL.
Scott is still there.
Okay, Dalvin Cook's still there. Like Irv Smith's coming to his own. Adam Thielen. More pass-heavy offense is going to be the Eagles.
Doubt.
I would just say that the best time that we've seen this Eagles offense perform recently with Carson Wentz has been with a healthy, deep downfield threat. Obviously, week 1 of last year, Deshaun Jackson just showed what Carson Wentz can do with a deep threat. They tried to get Mike Wallace before that to fulfill that role. This Philadelphia team has always kind of been stuck by its inability to get guys past their man downfield. And with Reagor, it seems like they finally have a guy that, if he stays healthy, has every opportunity to be that guy for them. But is that a role that is full of volume? That's the question.
No, but he's not going to be that guy. He's going to be in the slot. Dejon Jackson's going to be outside deep threat. Though he shouldn't be on it. Though he shouldn't be on a team anymore. Sorry.
No, he shouldn't.
I don't. The thing is, I'm not trusting any rookie wide receiver. Like,
yeah, you're not trusting. That's why.
I mean, that's why
it's a question. You can't trust a rookie wide receiver, but we're asking if you had the trust of rookie.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good.
You're just not. That's the answer.
Yeah, I'm not.
But you can't just say you're not.
No, I can't.
That's cheating.
I have told everybody and their mother on this podcast, do not draft rookie wide receivers.
because their price gets
Buy
depressed,
them
cheaper.
later.
I got some sound effect for saying, but yeah, you know.
But I will say that I think the guy who has the best route is, or the best, I guess, route
most
to targets,
straightforward route.
more straightforward route is Justin Jefferson.
No.
Because again, Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz are better than Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, Kyle Rudolph sucks.
Adam Thielen. So basically, Adam Thielen is probably equivalent to Zach Ertz, we'll say at this point, in terms of their target share. And then you have Cook and Sanders are probably equivalent too. Maybe I'd probably take Cook a little bit above that. And then there's nothing else. So I think he might be this wide receiver or the pass catcher too on this team, if I'm being frank. Andy, I mean, we saw him do extremely well from the slot. I know Thielen plays there a decent amount, but I think both of them can play in the slot 40 to 50% of the time and play on the outside the other part. And we saw Justin Jefferson dominate from the slot. So I think it's Justin Jefferson this year. I'm not saying Rager won't, like once Alshon and Ertz are gone, I'm not saying Rager won't be the wide receiver one in Philly, but for right now, it's Justin Jefferson.
I can't believe you're an Alshon Jeffrey truther.
I'm not a truther. I'm just, he gets his targets. I don't know what else to tell you.
He's got up this Frank. He's not even healthy, man.
7 games this season.
That's fine.
Get whatever targets in those 7 games.
I mean, he'll probably end up getting like 7 targets a game until he is on the IR or whatever, but that's how they treat Alshon Jeffrey.
I'm in full agreement with that. I think that the easiest pathway to targets is Justin Jefferson. I just don't know if those targets are going to be extremely valuable, because I don't know if Minnesota is going to have that good of an offense ultimately, because of what they might be dealing with Dalvin Cook, and because of the lack of Stephon Diggs on that team and what he was able to do for Kirk Cousins for the last couple of seasons. So I do expect Philadelphia to be the more high-powered offense. I do expect Philadelphia to have more fantasy assets than the Minnesota Vikings when it comes to people you actually want to start on your fantasy team. So I think that's the issue there.
Yeah, I believe that Justin Jefferson's a great player too. Great first name. You can't go wrong with Justin as a first name. And then also first-round draft capital, replacing Diggs. I understand that. I question his ability to play on the outside as well as he could in the slot. He did fine his junior year. It was the sophomore year, junior year in LSU before the whole last season with Joe Burrow playing on the outside, but he's so much better in the slot. So I hope that they do maximize his efficiency by putting him in the slot more often than not. But it remains to be seen. They don't run a lot of 11 personnel, I believe. Well, they do, but I don't know who's going to be in the slot, like you said, Stompy. Hopefully they do it interchangeable, and they put Thielen in there some plays and put Jefferson in there. Both Rager and Jefferson, I believe, can have a year one impact. I like Rager more. I think he has a clear path to make more out of his opportunity.
I completely lied. There's one more thing before we're getting to the Dynasty Diagnostic. Cincinnati Bengals, a lot of people are actually beginning to get behind the T. Higgins bandwagon. I don't understand it, because I think that Tyler Boyd is the clear, probably number one option on that team, assuming that there isn't health from other will not be named excellent wide receivers on that team whose last name may or may not be Green. But outside of that, people are thinking that T. Higgins maybe has a shot of being a real value add in year one. And I'm not sure if I find myself in agreement with those people. Do you?
Year one's going to be tough. I know he's already working out with Joe Burrow, which in this whole entire COVID training camp gives you some benefit, sure, whatever. Off-season training videos, I don't take into much account. I do agree with you, Tyler Boyd. People are sleeping on Tyler Boyd. I know, Eitan, you love Tyler Boyd. Came on our podcast, touted some Tyler Boyd at the end, and I agree with that.
Always
AJ Green, not the healthiest guy in the world, and you haven't seen him play 16 games in, I believe, 3 or 4 years, so I hope he can stay healthy. Moving forward, though, I do believe that T. Higgins can be the alpha in that offense whenever AJ Green's gone, but year one is going to be tough for me to get on board with him being productive. Like Sam says, the answer is no. The answer is no with the rookie wide receivers. The rookie wide receivers, Sam, to no. You can't say it to yes for T. Higgins out of all.
I'm not saying it to yes to T. Higgins.
I think
if anybody's drafting him to play this year, you're doing it wrong. I think you're drafting him to play or to fill in the AJ Green role when then he is inevitably gone next year.
Yes. And he will do a great job with that. Learning on AJ Green also helps. I know I heard somewhere that like coaches don't really help you excel at the next levels, meaning the other positional players at your position that help like coach you and stuff. So learning from AJ Green is definitely a plus for T. Higgins.
All right, guys, that is going to be the end of this portion of our podcast. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. We're going to get into the Dynasty Diagnostic. We're going to plug in the analyzer and go over to Salisbury United. Who is the guy whose roster we're looking at today? He said it was his birthday. I don't know when we got this message, so happy birthday. It's probably very belated at this point, but deeply and truly from both me and Sam. And now let's go ahead and look at the team. It is a 10-team, one quarterback. What is with these one quarterback leagues? Why are we still doing this?
Oh, I have a few.
No, Sam, don't.
I have
say
a few
that.
from
Sam.
that started years ago. Get out of here, Justin.
Transition it.
I'm not transitioning it. I
You
have
say
a
like,
few
all right.
one quarterback leagues left.
I have two.
I don't understand. I have one quarterback league left, and that's because it's the first Dynasty league I joined years and years and years and years ago. Every other league is a Superflex league, and I honestly just assume that every league I'm joining right now is a Superflex league, sometimes to my detriment. But let's get into it. So it's a one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, one tight end, one running back, wide receiver, tight end flex, one wide receiver, tight end flex, and one defense.
We don't care. Yeah, we don't care. Shut up.
Okay, we're done with this. All right, so at quarterback, it's a one quarterback league. At quarterback, he has Lamar Jackson. We can stop talking about that. At running back, he has Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, David Johnson, Geis, and Justice Hill. And at wide receiver, he has all the best players too. Sam, what are you doing? We're getting these overpowered rosters.
Well, hold on. Why do you think this is on me? People want us.
I'll take the blame.
To talk about their awesome team so they can roster bait to our voices.
Ooh.
I don't know what you want me to do.
So am I supposed to shit on it? I could do that.
I doubt it. Tell me how you're realistically going to shit on this team.
Easily, man. All right, so look at the running backs. I don't see a
Are
Miles Sanders.
fantastic.
I don't see a Miles Sanders. That's an L.
Oh my god! If that's the only,
Yeah, this roster is amazing, and I don't like.
Well, yeah. So we don't even need to go through.
And you also have 20.
Let's talk about this in parts. Alvin Kamara.
21 picks.
Alvin Kamara had a little bit of a down year last year. We did not see the same touchdown output from him last season. Obviously, there's been pieces added to that offense that weren't necessarily there in previous seasons, looking like there's going to be some actual other people to throw to outside of maybe Jared Cook and Michael Thomas on that team. Do we think that Alvin Kamara bounces back? Do we think that he gets the touchdown swag back?
Yeah, you just need to stop with it's yes.
Alvin
the answer is
Kamara.
yes. He's going to get 100 targets. He's going to get 200 carries. And he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver or running back.
Yes.
Again. I guess wide receiver could have worked too.
Alvin Kamara suffered a high ankle sprain week 7, and we've known how bad those affect your running backs and wide receivers. He literally tweeted out, I played on one leg for 75% of the season. It's all Alvin Kamara. Buy into Alvin Kamara. 81 catches every year. Book it, lock it, look at his past. And you're right, Aton. The touchdowns were not there last year. Expect that to positively regress. He's the number 2 option in the red zone behind Michael Thomas always. Alvin Kamara, top 5 wide receiver, tight end, running back, whatever you want to call it, Sam. I'm down for it.
Is Alvin Kamara RB3, RB4, RB5? Where does he fit into that for you?
RB3.
I would say RB3
too. That is Zeke for me.
I mean, he was the running back 9, despite only scoring 4 touchdowns. Like, his usage and his efficiency is fantastic. He just didn't score last year. So that's my thing. It's like, we know that touchdowns generally aren't sticky, but with the amount of touches he had and you only have 4 touchdowns, he's going to have a positive regression in touchdowns. He's going to continue to see volume. There's no reason to think that he's not a top 5 or he should be a top 5 running back.
Yeah, and the floor is there every single week because of the pass catching he presents, and I'm all in on Alvin Kamara this year by the bounce back. I don't know how people are really out on him, but
Do
they
you have
are.
any worries about anything longer term with maybe Jameis taking the reins after this season?
Nope. It's Alvin Kamara. I believe he's talented.
Well, we'll
Very
see
efficient.
where if
Yeah,
he
if he's still on the
signs.
team, yeah.
I think it because of his time. So I've sold Christian McCaffrey this offseason, I think twice actually.
I can't sell him.
I think I've sold Alvin Kamara once, but Christian McCaffrey at where he is at right now, it's hard to get more value than you would have where he's at. And then with Kamara, I think it'll be the same thing next year where when we see another top 5 season, I would be selling because he's getting older. While he is the satellite back that doesn't take a lot of hits, he's just becoming an older running back, and you should sell at the top of his game. So I think he will have another season, and then you sell Kamara after that.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of a wait and see situation. If he gets re-signed, then I think I'm good for a little while with Alvin Kamara. If he finds himself on a new team, I don't think that's going to be hugely detrimental to him because of his play style. I just don't know if we're going to see that same level of pass catching volume, which is the main buying factor for Alvin Kamara anyway. So I think that's just a situation to watch moving forward. But if there's a guy that's most closely similar to CMC in terms of his value to his team, I think it is Alvin Kamara. And I think that means even in this day and age of running back contracts being, few and far between and actually scarce, I think we might see a re-signing there. But let's go away from Alvin Kamara. Let's talk about Josh Jacobs. He's not getting any passing catching volume this year, according to everyone. Is that true? How afraid should we be of that?
They brought in Bowden. They re-signed Richard. People were like, okay, he didn't catch passes last year. He's not going to catch passes this year. Mayock and Gruden both said the year one they didn't want to put too much on the guy. Didn't want him to learn how to pick up pass protection, stuff like that. I don't know how much I buy into that. His best trait coming out of college was his pass catching ability. I believe he's going to have more targets than he had last year. I don't know why people are just like, okay, Richard and Bowden are there. You're not going to get any targets. Like, this dude's still a first-round draft pick and had a very good rookie season while playing with an injured shoulder for the majority of the year. So I'm buying into Josh Jacobs. Started the offseason, he was expensive. But now, since the draft happened and all this Miles Sanders hype started coming around, he's very, very cheap right now. And he's a guy you can buy at a decent price and not have to get bent over for it. Stompy, I'm curious to what you think about Mr. Josh Jacobs, and if you're buying into him or you're just holding, I guess.
I'm not buying because generally, now you can point to Chubb and say that's not right, but generally I'm the pass catch running back guy. I don't want Derrick Henry. I don't want Josh Jacobs.
Are you admitting Kareem Hunt's gonna eat into Nick Chubb's workload?
Okay, first and foremost, you weren't expecting him to catch passes.
That's what he said, right, Justin? I think
he's
that's
on.
I agree with Aton here. Stompy, we have some flaws. No, we have some flaws here. I think that Josh Jacobs has more years on his rookie contract. This is a dichotomy I brought to Stompy the other day. Chubb versus Jacobs. It's tough for me. I went with Chubb. I had the same exact situation the other day, but
I think it's a better offense, so it's Chubb, but
more years on a rookie contract, more levels of
you have
production.
1 year on 1 year. It's 1 year.
Yeah. But
I would just say one of those guys has
like, what do you want me to say that? No.
And one of those guys doesn't have Kareem Hunt behind him, and Kareem Hunt is good at his job. So.
So is Jalen Richard. What the hell are you talking about?
So we're saying Jalen Richard is as good
of a pass catcher as Kareem Hunt. Yes, I am. I am saying that.
I don't even know how to continue this at this point.
No, make your argument. Make your argument. Please tell me how Kareem Hunt is a better pass catcher than Jalen Richard.
First of all, I didn't limit it to only pass catching. I am limiting it to pass catching. I am not saying Jalen Richard is a better running back than Kareem Hunt. Nobody in their right goddamn mind would say that, and I'm not saying that. I am saying that Jalen Richard is the better pass catcher, and Kareem Hunt is not going to eat into Chubb's running workload. We don't have to get into this for
This year they may be using 2 running
500th
backs in the
time.
field at once. Too.
They-
Interesting.
Chubb will be on pace for 300 carries again. He will be on pace for 1,500 yards. And he's probably going to get double-digit touchdowns, unlike last year,
8 touchdowns.
because it is a better offense.
8 touchdowns last year. His expected touchdown total last year was 12.9. Stompy, you're speaking facts, but Jalen Richard is a good pass catcher in his own nature.
But so is Lynn Bowden, but they also added Brian Edwards, Henry Ruggs. They still have Darren Waller. They did add Jason Witten, which I don't know how much I really care about that.
100 targets in
But
Witten,
didn't forget about Hunter Renfrow. Like, it's...
They added talent to their offense too, is what I'm saying, which could ultimately help increase the efficiency from Josh Jacobs, because last year...
I'm not, I am saying that Josh Jacobs is in the same vein as Nick Chubb, and that you're probably not going to expect him to get a tremendous amount of targets, but he will give you 1,400 to 1,500 yards on the ground when he's healthy. I mean, I believe he was on pace last year to almost match Nick Chubb.
I will also say one thing that's interesting between these two teams, the Browns and the Raiders, is they're, to me, almost the two teams that are most suited to having multiple running backs on the field at the same time, to actually running 21 personnel, because they have such deep tight end rooms and they have such deep running back rooms. So this is an actual thing that can happen with either one of these teams and split some workload to everyone in that backfield.
I think it's possible to see Jacobs have more touches than Chubb this year too. I don't know if that's outlandish to say, Stompy.
I don't.
Yeah, they're both like
it's entirely
wrong.
I'm saying I will say this. I think Chubb will get at least 40 targets. He only had 50 last year, by the way.
Yeah.
Or no, he had 49, sorry. And he will get like 300 carries. I don't think you're going to see that from Jacobs.
Last year, Jacobs in 13 games had 242 carries, 28 targets. You don't think he gets over 40 targets this year?
No, I don't.
I wonder what the prop bet is right now for receptions.
Targets.
I think it's over 50 targets.
I see 275 carries and 40 to 50 targets there. So I would say that's probable for Jacobs.
I don't know.
Both of these guys are fantastic. Chubb isn't even on this team. Just every conversation that you have with Stompy has to somehow,
because he's the best rushing running back in the league.
But we have
the best runner in the league.
Second best.
He's not the best runner in the league, because the best runner in the league is also on this team.
Yes, it is.
His name is Derrick Henry. That's the best running back in the league.
Yeah, you're wrong, but okay.
I'm not wrong.
You really are, because guess who is the better creator of yards?
I don't.
Guess who has the better vision? Guess who's more efficient?
At the team that is going to not only run the ball more.
You mean we're talking about the Cleveland Browns?
Entire offense around him.
You mean the Cleveland Browns are going to run the ball more?
There's no OBJ on the Tennessee Titans. Nobody's going to create plays.
No, but there's an
Derrick Henry. There's AJ Brown and nothing else. It's AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith, and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is going to be probably the most used running back, at least in terms of running the football, in the league all over again, and it's not close.
Except for it is close, because guess how many rushes Chubb had last year?
Chubb didn't play with Kareem Hunt for half of last year.
Guess how many? I didn't ask it. I didn't ask that, did I? Guess how many rushes Chubb had? How many rushing attempts did Chubb have last year?
Over 300, right?
298. How many did Derrick Henry have?
Probably close to the same, right?
303.
Okay. Again,
these guys.
Who was the more? No. Who was
the guy behind him for half of the season? Like,
so what? They're also going to run the ball more.
Oh my God.
So last year,
and that's not even the argument we're having. The argument we're having is who is the better runner.
I have it right here. The stats. It's Derrick Henry.
It's not. What do you mean?
Last year, Derrick Henry, 15 games, had 579 yards created. That's number 1 in the league. Chubb, in 16 games, 576, behind Derrick Henry. Both are great running backs. I just believe that you can, tomorrow I may wake up, I'll be like, you know what, Nick Chubb's the better running back. But right now, for this podcast's sake, because I want to agree with Eitan, it's Derrick Henry, baby. And you're wrong, Stompy, but you can't really be wrong because you're both great. I'd rather have Nick Chubb than Derrick Henry on my Dynasty team.
Absolutely.
That's not even
Absolutely.
close. I'm just saying, better rusher. I went to the
Pure
Patriots-Titans
rusher.
game last year, the AFC wild card game, and Derrick Henry is a beast. They cannot tackle that man. Nick Chubb's better at evading tackles. However, Derrick Henry was also good at evading tackles too. 82 evaded tackles last year, and Nick Chubb had 96. But then again, an extra game. They're very close, but Stompy, it's just you have a Chubb for Chubb. That's what it comes down to, and
It's Chubb for Chubb.
Because he's been consistently the
He's very
best
good.
runner
I
the
like-
last 2
yes.
years.
yes,
Like,
they're
I
both
don't know
great.
what to tell you.
I
And
would
now
say that
Jonathan
Derrick
Taylor
Henry
is coming in, baby.
This is
Derrick Henry was 16th
insanity.
in yards created. Nick Chubb was 25th in yards created. I would say that Derrick Henry's line has taken a hit this year in a way that Nick
Yes.
Chubb's line
Which
has
he
not.
got Conklin. This is funny. They
So I would definitely say that if there's an argument that's to be made from Stompy's perspective, that is probably the direction I would go in. But outside of that, I don't really know what else to say.
Now that he has Conklin, he has Derrick Henry's mojo. Nick Chubb will be a better rusher this year. But Jonathan
Always
Taylor's in the
has
league.
been.
Jonathan Taylor's no.
Yes, yes.
No, Jonathan Taylor
Yes.
is now the number 3 best rusher in the NFL.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Well,
So
first and
he has
foremost,
the 101.
no, he's not
He has the
yet,
101.
but
Yes, he is. He already is.
when is
He's
he? What kind of numbers has he produced in the NFL?
About the same as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who everyone else also loves.
Okay, why are you bringing up Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Nobody brought him up.
I just did. I brought him up.
Yeah, now
I'm just saying, you
that's
look
a
at
false that's a false dichotomy because that
Right,
doesn't
listen,
answer the
listen,
question.
listen.
How much has
You
he
look-
produced in the NFL?
He hasn't yet. But we're not
Oh.
talking about yesterday. We're talking about the future. You want to say best rusher? We're just not Nick Chubb with Derrick Henry anymore. I'm just saying that Jonathan Taylor is a great running back, and he fits your mold. You have to like Jonathan Taylor. He's similar to Nick Chubb, I believe.
I love Jonathan
Yeah, see,
Taylor.
exactly.
I'm saying he's not the number 3 right now.
Who's the
because
number
he hasn't
3?
done anything.
Okay, so we'll have this conversation midway through the year.
Okay,
and he'll be
that's
number
fine.
3.
When midway through the year is fine. You can't have the conversation right now.
How about this?
Both of those guys, and I've been maintaining this all year. I don't think Damian Williams completely disappears. I don't think Marlon Mack completely disappears.
Okay, get the
I think
not
I think
even
that they
close
will-
to the
I
same
think that
goddamn
they will
thing.
lose. I
Not
think that they will
even
lose their
close.
starting jobs. I think they will be sparingly used, but I don't think they completely disappear from the
But
fantasy
Damian
landscape.
Williams is better than Marlon Mack.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying. I
Jonathan
think both
Taylor
these
is
guys
far
can maintain
better
a
than
role.
Marlon Mack.
Okay, but when you're looking at that team and you're looking for trying to get the ball with the most talented people on that team, look at
Jonathan
the Kansas City
Taylor.
Chiefs versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts have a much smaller pool of players that you would expect to get the ball
Okay.
in situations that you really want to advance than the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a chance that we see one of their talented players, even though maybe he's not even at the same level of the other guys we're talking to, getting a significant portion of the carries, because outside of that, you're looking at Michael Pittman, you're looking at T.Y. Hilton, who might be injured, who might be an injury risk. You're looking at Jack Doyle, who is a half decent tight end, and there's really nobody else, whereas you don't have that problem on the Kansas City Chiefs. So there might just be more offense left there for him. But again, we're going way off the rails here. We still have to stick to this roster. This
Well, he
roster
has
has
the
Alvin
101.
Kamara,
That's what
Josh
I'm saying.
Jacobs, Derrick Henry. My final question before we move on to the wide receiver portion of this is, Todd Gurley and David Johnson both find themselves in new situations this year. I would argue that Todd Gurley's is better because there's not necessarily a guy behind Todd Gurley that's going to be any threat to Todd Gurley. Duke Johnson, I think we all think, is a good running back and probably should be used more. And then one guy doesn't have to work with Bill O'Brien. So make of that what you will. But can David Johnson come back and have a decent season this year?
Yes, Bill O'Brien needs to prove to the people that he made the right decision, even though it's not the right decision. So volume's going to be on David Johnson's side. He had 5 top 12 weeks to start the season out of the first 6 weeks, then suffered a high ankle sprain. And everyone knows what happened after that. Complete disaster. But I believe that Bill O'Brien's going to give him the volume to be successful. And as a running back 4/5 on this guy's team, I think it's a great running back 4/5.
Yeah, it's an impeccable running back room.
Yeah.
This is
And he
something
can
we
add
don't
Jonathan Taylor to it with the 101, baby. Let's go. He wants to know what he should do about trading it. You got the 101. You're taking Jonathan Taylor over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Fit the mold, baby.
So
probably trading that 101 for a wide receiver.
This being
probably-
a 10 team, I don't know when it started, but you either had a hell of a draft or you've done great in trading for these guys. But I mean, you add Jonathan Taylor to this. You have Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, probably Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. But I mean, you run at 5 deep, trustworthy starting, maybe 6 if Darius Guice actually remains healthy. And you only have to start 2. So I don't know what else to tell you. You're good for the foreseeable future because all of these, 4 of these guys are still very young. There's not, I mean, honestly, when I'm looking at this team, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I said this at the beginning, but this is the team you chose. So wide receivers.
All right, listen, I chose it because he was next. Not we have to. I picked the rosters based off of the time they were sent in. I don't. Oh, that one's too easy.
I mean, you could trade Derrick,
but it allowed me to yell at both of you, so I don't.
Derrick
care.
Henry into 110 for Devontae Adams. Who says no?
I mean, I'm doing it.
Probably do that with this team. With this team,
exactly. So maybe you try to get a wide receiver because you get.
But I think that's what we're going into right now, though. We're talking about the wide receivers. If there is a part of this team that could use some refinement, especially with the Deebo Samuel injury, I think it's the wide receiver core because you have this guy named Tyreek Hill. For some reason, his name is spelled incorrectly.
Tyreek Hill, beast. He's a doppelganger.
Odell Beckham Jr. Of course, is the wide receiver 2 on this team. I mean, regardless of what you feel about Odell,
he's the best.
We know what he has in him, what he's capable of. DK Metcalf showed that him and Tyler Lockett aren't wide receiver 1 Lockett and then wide receiver 2 DK Metcalf situation. It's really a 1A, 1B, and it might be 1A in favor of DK going forward into this new season because of the rapport that he showed with Russell Westbrook or with Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Going to basketball now.
I
Russell
love
Wilson
last
year. But yeah, so we have Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham Jr., DK Metcalf, and then it goes down to Deebo Samuel, Adam Thielen, and Will Fuller. I'd probably move Adam Thielen comfortably into that wide receiver 3 role. But besides that, Will Fuller's a risk. Marvin Jones is a risk. Anthony Miller can be described as that as well. There was a lot of hope for D.D. Westbrook that was unfulfilled last year. Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay is the new wide receiver on that team. I don't think they did the same thing, but it is what it is. Kiki Guti and Dante Pettis are forgotten men. What are you doing at wide receiver?
I'm going to try to upgrade that. He has draft picks to trade, like you mentioned, so maybe use some of those to package up and get it by the wide receiver. Guys, I'm kind of looking at to buy low. I mean, or just buy in general. Terry McLaurin. I love Terry McLaurin. I'm trying to buy him where I can. A.J. Brown, I'd probably even pay high for. He already has DK Metcalf, who's a young receiver going into his second year, who a lot of people do like. But I am all aboard the getting a better wide receiver train for this team. I think you have to start 2, and one of the flex spots is a wide receiver / tight end. So I believe that if you get an upgrade at one in that, it's a good idea. Sam, any ideas what to do with this wide receiver group?
I think I agree. I mean, you have Tyreek, and then there's I guess a tiny bit of fall off, if that's what you want to call it here, into OBJ. But I mean, he could very easily come back with a vengeance this year. DK being as young as he is, and Deebo being as young as he is. I don't think Deebo's going to be that top end talent that some people thought, but I mean, he's still probably a top 24 wide receiver. So having him as your wide receiver, really, he's probably your wide receiver 5 at this point because Adam Thielen's going to get 140 plus targets.
And Marvin Jones is nice too at the wide receiver.
Yeah, and I don't mind this depth because Will Fuller is kind of a top or can be win you weeks. Marvin Jones the same way. Anthony Miller I actually really like. I think Miles Boykin is underrated as a second year wide receiver. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I would actually look at packaging like the 110 and the 107, keep Derrick Henry, get Josh Jacobs, and then you can get like a Cooper Kupp, probably a Robert Woods. Who else? I mean, Tyler Boyd you can get with probably the 107 and the 110 at this point. So Cortland Sutton, he might be too rich.
Accept your apology, Sam, by mentioning all the people that I'm huge fans of.
You're welcome. So And then that pushes guys down. So then you're deep again. So then you have Tyreek Hill, OBJ, one of those three that I talked about.
We had this debate, I think an off season and a half ago. Let's read.
Well, let's not. No,
debate.
We can't. Justin's got to go here soon. We can't.
I gotta go in 5 minutes. Yeah, but we're chilling.
Okay. But really quickly.
Go for it.
Is Tyreek Hill Dynasty wide receiver 1?
No.
He's my 5. 4.
I think he's
4.
He's 4 for me.
He's 4.
I think he's
Actually, no, he's 2
3.
for me.
He's comfortably 3. I would say he could go up to
I
1.
like Tyreek Hill.
I think he's 2 for me behind Michael Thomas.
4.
All right. So let's go to tight ends.
I got to know who you have ahead of Tyreek Hill real quick.
All right, take a guess.
Michael Thomas.
Devontae Adams, I would say.
I
don't know if you can
DJ Moore and Chris Godwin.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's the correct answer, baby. MT Godwin, Moore, Hill. That's what I do. Yeah, see, you're shaking your head right now, but guess what? In a year, you're gonna be like, "I'm so sorry, Justin."
No, I'm not. I mean, what has Tyreek Hill done the past 3 years? But be elite.
Tyreek Hill was injured. That's the only reason that you don't think.
That's fine. I mean, he didn't though.
I don't understand that shit.
What do you mean you don't? They didn't find. Listen, I am
We're not gonna open up. No, we're not opening this up. We're not opening it up. We're not opening it up. But it's a fair point. I don't have a problem. Like they're all very close. Like 2, 3, 4, 5 for me are like bunched together. You can flip them around.
I can't do it with the guys who just did it one time.
I said Tyreek was top 3, I believe, a year and a half ago, and I think Sam laughed at me at this point, but I think he's steadily going up.
I would have.
He's steadily going up.
Yes.
He's steadily going up.
I think he was top 5 for me anyway. No, you said wide receiver 1, and that's when I laughed at you.
I said he was my wide receiver 1. I can understand out to wide receiver 3.
All right, let's go to the tight ends.
Mark Andrews, Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, TJ Hawkinson.
We don't need to talk about this.
You win.
We're not going to talk about whether or not you need a tight end. Obviously, you don't need a tight end. We're going to talk about is TJ Hawkinson somebody that
TJ Hawkinson's elite. I love. He's working out with George Kittle. He's now ahead of Mark Andrews for me in my tight end. Not really, but like that's what people are doing with these offseason workout videos. Hawkinson tight end 4 for me in Dynasty.
All right, so 2020, 2021 picks.
Spicy.
4 first-round picks in both these drafts. You have 4 seconds as well in both of these drafts. So, I mean, with this team, are you looking to just sell these picks and add to these guys, or are you trying to get some of the older guys off your team, maybe packaging some picks with a David Johnson, with an Adam Thielen, with maybe an Austin Hooper if you don't believe in his new destination, trying to get new things for your team? What is your
Okay, bye. So I'll say, I think his computer might have just died. Yeah. He was warning me of that, but I will say that I'm keeping 101, and I am taking Jonathan Taylor, and then, like I said, with 107 and 110, I would package those, and if you could package them with like Adam Thielen, you could get like Sutton, Golladay. Actually, you might be able to get more than that if I really think about it. But those are guys I would be targeting here where they could very easily be a top 10 wide receiver next year after they have another breakout season this year. So I think you're in agreement here that you want to get one more top end wide receiver.
Especially in a 10-team league too.
Yes, because you want top end talent in 10 or less. So
exactly.
Then you'll be 5 deep at running back, maybe 6. Then you'll be 6 deep at wide receiver with some other guys that are young below that, and then you're already young and good at tight end, so you upgrade at wide receiver, and then you're absolutely a contender here. We don't care about your defenses or your kickers, but now this is the portion where we compare to cars. Aton's computer may have died, so I am running. Oh, nope, he's back. Never mind. Aton's back.
Hey.
So we're comparing cars, Aton. Justin, you know the deal here. We take this roster and compare it to a car or something that you think needs to be done to the car.
I got you.
We're not car guys, so don't worry about it.
Oh, I got you.
So what does this roster look like to you in car terms or mechanic terms?
This is I believe it's a Maybach. Is Maybach Mercedes one? The big luxury vehicle where you just can sit. You got
Maybach. It's Maybach.
Maybach. You got a Maybach, man. You're chilling. You don't gotta do much with this. You can do fine tune it. Maybe pimp out some wheels a little bit more or something like that. But
Put spinners on it.
Yeah, get some nice blacked out
I think
rims.
this is going to be what
Tint the
we all
windows.
think. I'm not going to even. We're not going to even. Aton and I don't need to talk about this. It's whatever luxury car you want. It's an
insane
Lamborghini. It's a Mercedes.
Yeah.
It's a keep going Porsche.
So
whatever you
stars
favorite
on
car
the
is.
roof, low. Oh, it's everything.
But I think Justin and I are in agreement at least that you can get an upgrade at wide receiver. So those are those spinning rims or whatever, diamond encrusted rims, just to top it all off and win next year. But that's about all that. I mean, you don't really need to do anything, but if you're going to do something, I would get another wide receiver one.
Yeah, I'd spend those picks on DJ Chark and Terry McLaurin right now and just try to get them early in their career and see if you can just not age out your team in a few years after that. But that is going to be the end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you so much, Justin, for joining us. Shout out to the people where you are, where they can find you, what they can expect from you coming up this season.
Yes, thank you for having me on. A lot of fun, guys. I enjoyed the show. My Twitter's @Justin_FFB. I do a podcast, Father Son Fantasy Football. You can find it on any podcast app you want. Currently giving away a signed Amari Cooper jersey giveaway. Check out the pinned tweet in @FatherSonFF for details on how to enter that. Check us out. We do a Dynasty show every here and there, but mainly redraft. And I'd like to say we're entertaining for the most part because my dad's a clown. But yeah, just give us a nice little listen and you don't have to listen, just download. That's all.
It's hilarious. It's a fun podcast. It basically helped me get my start. So you're welcome, everybody. Thank you, Justin.
Awesome podcast. And Gabe actually might have made our opening soundtrack obsolete by the awesomeness that he did on FSFF. So make sure you're listening to that. All right, Sam. Anything we got to say before we get out of here?
Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Dino Diagnostic. Become a patron. Help support us. Access to a chat. You get access to watch these podcasts as they're recorded, stuff like that. And then go to the Etsy store, or not Etsy, Shopify. Sorry. Search FF Pod Shirts.
Store Envy.
Huh?
Store Envy.
Sorry. I'm all over the place. Storeenvy.com/FF Pod Shirts. We have 2 shirts, a sticker in there, and some other podcasts are in there too. That's Dynasty Outhouse's store, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making it to the Dynasty Diagnostic Service Center today. Please be sure to keep up with scheduled maintenance and catch us next time to ensure quality performance. See you in the next visit.